The sun hangs low over a frost-covered field in the heart of the American Midwest, casting long, blue shadows across the stiff stalks of last year's corn. It is 22 degrees Fahrenheit, the kind of morning where the air feels thin and sharp, biting at the lungs with every breath. Most homes nearby are human with the sound of forced air furnaces, burning through expensive propane or drawing heavy loads from a strained electrical grid. But here, near the edge of a small wooded lot, stands a structure that defies the winter chill without a single moving part or a flickering pilot light. This is the Homestead's secret weapon, a silent engine built from the very ground beneath our boots. It is not a machine of copper and silicon, but a living battery made of dirt, stone, and the relentless physics of the sun. To understand how we can power a life with nothing but the soil, we have to look past the high-tech promises of the modern world and return to the heavy, honest materials that have always been within reach. The first shovel of earth is always the hardest, hit in the frozen crust with a dull thud that vibrates up the wooden handle and into the palms of your hands. Beneath that frost line lies the most reliable energy storage system on the planet. While the air temperature swings 50 degrees in a single day, the Earth 10 feet down stays a steady, stubborn 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. We call this the soil battery, or more technically, a ground-to-air heat transfer system. It starts with the physical labor of excavation, digging a trench 6 feet deep and 40 feet long using a rented backhoe or a steady week of manual digging. You can smell the damp, metallic scent of the subsoil, a mixture of heavy clay and ancient minerals that have been compressed for centuries. This earth is dense, weighing roughly 100 pounds per cubic foot, and that weight is exactly what we need. Mass is the ability to hold on to heat, and we are surrounded by millions of tons of it. Into this deep trench, we lay 4-inch diameter corrugated drainage pipes, the kind you find at any local hardware store. These black, flexible tubes are the veins of the system. We snake them through the cool dark of the trench, ensuring they have a slight slope so any moisture from condensation can drain away into a gravel pit at the far end. Each foot of pipe is surrounded by coarse river sand, which provides excellent contact between the plastic and the cool earth. When the summer sun beats down on the glass of a greenhouse, pushing the internal temperature to a stifling 110 degrees Fahrenheit, we don't open a window to let that energy escape. Instead, a small, low-wattage fan draws that scorching air into these underground pipes. As the air travels through the earth, it sheds its heat into the surrounding soil. The air that emerges back into the greenhouse is a crisp, refreshing 60 degrees Fahrenheit. We aren't just cooling the room, we are charging the battery, pushing thousands of BTUs of thermal energy into the dirt to be saved for the lean months of winter. System 1 is the thermal mass wall, the backbone of the greenhouse structure. It is built from 8-inch concrete blocks, each one weighing about 38 pounds. As you stack them, the rough gray surface scrapes against your gloves, and the smell of wet mortar fills the air. These aren't just structural supports, they are heat sponges. We fill the hollow cores of the blocks with pea gravel or sand to increase their density, turning a simple wall into a 20-ton thermal reservoir. In the dead of winter, when the sun is low on the horizon, its rays strike the dark painted surface of this wall. The dark pigment absorbs the light, converting it into long-wave infrared radiation that soaks into the concrete. By 3 p.m., the wall is warm to the touch, radiating a gentle heat that persists long after the sun has dipped below the tree line. This prevents the nighttime temperature from plummeting, keeping the delicate leaves of a head of Bibb lettuce or a rosemary bush from turning into ice crystals. Beside this wall sit the 55-gallon blue drums, the iconic staples of the independent homestead. Each drum, when filled with water, weighs nearly 460 pounds. Water is a miracle of thermal engineering. It can hold about 4 times as much heat as the same volume of air. We line these drums up along the north wall, 4 or 5 in a row, where they sit like silent sentinels. Throughout the day, they absorb the surplus heat that builds up near the ceiling. If you place your hand on the plastic skin of the barrel in the evening, you can feel the stored energy of the day's sunlight vibrating within the liquid. This is the second system, the hydronic heat sink. It's a simple, low-cost method that ensures the temperature inside our living space never drops below the freezing mark, even when the wind is howling outside and the bird bath in the yard is frozen solid. The independence of this setup comes from its passivity. There are no complex circuit boards to fry during a lightning storm and no fuel lines to clog with winter wax. It relies on the angle of the sun and the density of the material. In Zone 5 or 6, where the winters are long and the skies often gray, we tilt the south-facing glazing to an angle of 60 degrees. This specific geometry allows the weak winter sun to enter at a near perpendicular angle, maximizing the energy gain while reflecting the harsh, overhead summer sun. We use twin-wall polycarbonate sheets, which have a honeycombed structure that traps air, providing an insulation value that single-pane glass simply cannot match. You can hear the wind whistling against the plastic, but inside, the air is still and smells of damp earth and growing things. It is a radical departure from the store-bought life, where every degree of warmth is purchased from a utility company. Here, the warmth is earned through the placement of stone and the movement of dirt. As we move deeper into the mechanics of the soil battery, we consider the floor itself. Instead of a cold, concrete slab, we use a layered approach. We start with a foot of wood chips, which act as a slow-release biological heater. As the chips break down, microbial activity generates a small but consistent amount of heat, a process called thermophilic composting. On top of this, we lay a thick layer of dark, organic topsoil mixed with biochar. Biochar is created by burning scrap wood in a low-oxygen environment, resulting in a porous, carbon-rich material that holds on to both nutrients and heat. The dark color of the soil further aids in absorption. When you walk across this floor in mid-January, your feet don't feel the sting of the cold. They feel the soft, yielding warmth of a living floor. This is not just a place to grow food. It is a thermal engine that produces calories and comfort simultaneously. The synergy between the underground pipes, the masonry wall, and the water barrels creates a stabilized microclimate. In the high deserts of the Rockies, where the temperature can swing 40 degrees Fahrenheit between noon and midnight, this system acts as a dampener. It clips the peaks of the afternoon heat and fills the valleys of the midnight cold. We are using the earth as a buffer, a giant capacitor that smooths out the chaotic fluctuations of the weather. This is blue-collar wisdom at its finest. Don't fight the environment. Use its mass to your advantage. Every pound of dirt we move is a penny saved, and every stone we stack is a shield against the rising costs of an uncertain world. We are building a fortress of soil, one shovel at a time. The third pillar of the soil battery rests on the principle of subterranean air core circulation. To make this work, we go beyond the simple buried pipe and look at the foundation itself. Imagine a series of concrete lintels, each weighing 60 pounds, laid across a recessed trench in the center of the floor. This creates a hollow plenum, a hidden lung beneath the greenhouse. As the sun reaches its zenith and the thermometer near the roof peak climbs toward 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the air expands. This hot, buoyant air is pushed downward by a small solar-powered fan, no larger than the one in a kitchen vent, through a vertical intake duct made of galvanized steel. The steel feels cold to the touch at first, but as the hot air rushes through it, the metal begins to hum with the transfer of energy. The air is forced through the gravel-lined plenum, where the rough surfaces of the stones strip away the heat, storing it directly in the floor mass. This is the subterranean discharge, the active charging of the deep soil battery. By the time the sun sinks behind the jagged silhouette of the Rockies and the outdoor temperature begins its rapid descent toward 15 degrees Fahrenheit, the cycle reverses. The heat stored in those thousands of pounds of gravel and damp earth cannot escape quickly through the insulated foundation walls. Instead, it begins to migrate upward through the soil profile. This is the thermal heartbeat of the homestead. While the neighbor's garden is a graveyard of blackened tomato vines and frozen stems, your floor remains a steady 62 degrees Fahrenheit. You can stick your bare hand into the soil and feel the warmth radiating from below, a gentle subterranean pulse that keeps the root zones of your plants active and thriving. We aren't just heating the air, we are heating the medium of life itself. The roots of a Meyer lemon tree, tucked into a 15-gallon terracotta pot, don't know that there is a blizzard howling outside the polycarbonate walls. They only know the constant, rhythmic warmth of the earth battery. This leads us to the synergy of the double envelope design. We don't just rely on the dirt, we protect it. On the northern side of the structure, where the winter winds hit with the force of a freight train, we build an earth berm. We pile the excavated soil from the initial trenching against the back wall, sloping it at a 30-degree angle and seeding it with hardy buffalo grass. This 6-foot-thick rampart of earth serves as the ultimate insulator. While a standard, stud-framed wall has an R value of 15 or 20, 6 feet of packed earth provides a thermal barrier that essentially negates the outside temperature. The wind, instead of stripping heat from the building, is deflected up and over the roof. Inside, against that north wall, we store our firewood, stacks of seasoned oak and hickory, each cord weighing nearly 4,000 pounds. This wood serves as a secondary thermal mass, its dense cellular structure holding on to the ambient heat of the room, before it is eventually moved to the wood stove for the coldest nights of the year. Implementation is where the theory meets the muscle. To build a system that lasts 20 years, you cannot cut corners on the moisture barrier. We wrap the entire subterranean portion of the battery in 6 mil polyethylene plastic, a heavy, crinkling sheet that smells of a new tarp. This prevents the groundwater from leaching away our stored heat and keeps the humidity of the soil from rotting the structural timber. We use pressure-treated 4x4 posts for the framing, sunk 4 feet deep into the ground and anchored with bags of dry pour concrete. As the water from the soil seeps into the concrete, it hardens into a rock-solid footing that can withstand the frost heaves of a Wyoming winter. There is a profound sense of satisfaction in bolting the rafters together, the impact driver echoing through the quiet yard as the 6-inch galvanized screws bite into the wood, pulling the skeleton of the battery into a rigid, defiant shape. The plants we choose for this environment are the final components of the system. We don't just grow food, we grow humidity and oxygen. A single, large-leafed fig tree, with its rough, sandpaper-textured leaves, can transpire several gallons of water a day. This water vapor hangs in the air, increasing its heat-carrying capacity. In the corner, we plant Siberian kale, its ruffled purple leaves hardy enough to withstand a light frost, and next to it, the deep green spears of garlic, which require the cold stratification of the soil to develop their pungent bulbs. The smell is a heady mix of decomposing mulch, citrus blossoms, and the metallic tang of the stone wall. It is the smell of a closed-loop system working in perfect harmony with the seasons. When the power grid fails, as it often does when the ice accumulates on the lines like heavy glass sleeves, the homestead remains unaffected. There are no frantic calls to the repairman and no desperate searches for a backup generator. The soil battery doesn't care about the price of oil or the stability of the local utility company. It is governed by the laws of thermodynamics, which are the only laws that truly matter on the frontier of independence. You stand in the center of the greenhouse, surrounded by 30 tons of warm earth and stone, and you realize that you have stepped out of the fragile cycle of consumption. You are no longer a customer. You are a steward of your own climate. This is the essence of sovereign living. It is the realization that the ground we walk on is not just dirt, but a vast untapped reservoir of power. It is the willingness to trade a week of sweat and the ache of a shovel-worn back for a lifetime of thermal security. We build with the materials of the old world to survive the uncertainties of the new one. As the stars come out over the high plains and the temperature drops into the single digits, the soil battery continues its silent work. The heat of the August sun, buried 6 feet deep in the cool dark of the earth, begins its slow journey toward the surface, keeping the frost at bay and the promise of the harvest alive. We have taken the sun and put it in the ground, and in doing so we have claimed a piece of the earth for ourselves. This is not just a garden or a heater. It is a declaration of independence written in stone, water, and soil. We are rooted, we are resilient, and we are free.